Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5.
Jesus Christ!
Much of Jamaica is without power or phone service after the country's strongest ever hurricane.
Oh God! Lord!
The island saw floods, mudslides, roofs being ripped off buildings and palm trees tossed like toothpicks. After crossing Jamaica, Hurricane Melissa hit Cuba, bringing 115-mile-an-hour winds and heavy rains with warnings of life-threatening storm surges.
Jamaica, this is not the time to be brave. I've been saying for 1 week, don't bet against Melissa. It is a bet we can't win.
The bodies of at least 40 people have been laid out in a square of a poor neighbourhood of the Brazilian city of Rio de Janeiro, a day after a massive police raid. Police have confirmed that at least 64 people, among them 4 police officers, were killed in the raid on suspected members of the Red Command criminal gang, but that number could rise as more bodies are discovered. The raid was the deadliest in the city, where authorities have for decades tried to contain the gangs, which control many of its poor neighbourhoods. The high number of casualties has been denounced by the United Nations Human Rights Office, which said it was horrified by the police operation. The Hamas-run health ministry in Gaza says at least 104 Palestinians have been killed in a wave of Israeli strikes on Tuesday night. The Israeli military said it struck dozens of terror targets and terrorists in response to violations by Hamas of the US-brokered ceasefire deal. Israel's defense minister accused Hamas of an attack in Gaza that killed an Israeli soldier and of breaching the terms on returning deceased hostages' bodies. Hamas said it had no connection to the attack and was committed to the deal. The US and South Korea have reached a broad trade deal, according to both countries. South Korea's presidential aide, Kim Yong-byong, said the two sides will reduce reciprocal tariffs from 25% to 15%, as was agreed earlier this year. South Korea will also invest $350 billion in the US, including $200 billion in cash investments and $150 billion in shipbuilding. Geert Wilders' anti-Islam Freedom Party is facing a tight race in the Dutch election, and even if he wins the vote, his hopes of forming a new government appear minimal. Wilders was the clear winner last time Dutch voters went to the polls in November 2023, but final opinion polls ahead of voting suggest a fall in his support. Unlike last time, Wilders' rivals are refusing to work with him after he brought down his own coalition government last June. Sudan's military government has ordered 2 senior officials at the UN's World Food Programme to leave the country amid widespread famine sparked by a grueling civil war that erupted in April 2023. The WFP said directors of its Sudan operation were declared persona non grata and told to go within 72 hours without explanation. The decision comes days after the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces captured the key city of El Fasher in Darfur from the military after an 18-month siege. Romania's defense ministry has said the US intends to reduce some of its troops stationed on NATO's eastern flank. Between 900 and 1,000 American troops will remain in Romania, down from 1,700. The ministry said the decision was expected and that the resizing of US forces was a result of new priorities of the Trump presidential administration. And messages in a bottle written by 2 Australian soldiers in 1916 have been found more than a century later on the country's southwestern coast. The cheerful notes were penned just a few days into their voyage to join the battlefields of France during World War I. One of the soldiers told his mother that the food on board was very good and that they were as happy as Larry. Months later, he was killed in action at the age of 28. The other soldier, 37-year-old William Harley, survived the war and returned home. The letters have been passed on to their descendants, who have been stunned by the discovery.
It's very emotional, but we're also very excited that we found it, that a local family found it, because we've made it into something really special for the families.
And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.